Welcome to the CFBDynasty podcast with hosts Matt Knowles, Brian McElfresh, and Doug Gravely.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Good morning. Happy Saturday. It's hard to believe the season is more than halfway over, and for the fantasy football crowd, where the crucial stretch toward the playoffs is now. So, some leagues I'm looking good. The open league I'm not. So here we go. I'm like everything stacked against me in the open league. In terms of injuries and whatnot, as I continue to complain. And I don't want to start out there. This is our fast-paced show where we go through all of the data that you need to help set your lineups this week in DFS and start-sit questions for, DFS or CFF. And let's get to it. So we've got news and notes. We're going to go over not all of them that we went over in the last show, but it's all posted up in the Discord. If you're just going to want to read through it, go to the injury news channel, and it's there for you guys. But we'll go over all the new stuff from this morning and yesterday, things that are coming around or out about players, which does make me need to shift my lineups too. So what's up, Doug? How are you this morning?
Doing good, man. Just
all
relaxing. Right. Relaxing on a Saturday.
That's right. All right, let's go straight into the news.
News and notes around college football.
All right, man, what you got?
I got to say, the drums in our little intros just make me want to be at a game for real.
I know. If you could go to any game today,
that's easy peasy.
Paid, where would you go?
Easy peasy. Well, I guess I don't even have two anymore with some of the news I'm about to go over. But man, I would love to go to the Penn State-Ohio State game right now.
Same.
Gosh, that would be so much fun.
And we'd have to buy jackets and stuff, but it would be fun.
Man, I'm a lot of man. I don't need no jacket.
I'm a wuss when it comes to cold weather. So, anyways, here we go.
So, I would have said also the Florida State Duke game, but with the news of Riley Leonard being highly unlikely to play, I don't know if I want to go to that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to expect from their backup quarterback. From what I hear, he's a good player, but he's not Riley Leonard. So, yeah, be careful of really starting anybody on that Duke side except for their running back today.
Yeah, they're going to probably go heavy waters either way because the injury specifically is a high ankle sprain. I know you and I both have had them. They're super easy to tweak, and you're quickly out of the game, unable to kind of cut in any sort of direction.
Yeah.
So that'll allow Florida State to kind of stack the box, which makes me wary of Waters. I think the key matchup of that game shifts to Duke's defense and what they can do against Florida State's offense in a night game at Doak Campbell.
Johnny Wilson looks like he's going to play.
He's back. Yep.
FSU's back to full strength too. So
right.
We got Will Rogers, quarterback from Mississippi State, doubtful today. The longtime Will Rogers, I feel like he's been in fantasy football on teams for 27 years, but. Cody Schrader, a running back I'm really starting to like a lot for Missouri, listed as questionable, but he was also listed as questionable last week, and he still played. So Brady Cook, quarterback Missouri, probable to play. And then you got Aiden Robbins from BYU, the running back. Hasn't played since week 2. If you remember, LJ Martin kind of took over for him, the freshman. He's been doing fine, been doing well. But if Aiden Robbins is back and ready to play, I do expect him to play. It's Aiden Robbins, and they recruited him pretty hard in the transfer portal. So then we got one of our favorite guys to talk about because he's always on this report, Antoine Wells, receiver for South Carolina, out again today. He just, maybe he's just collecting some NIL money and kind of enjoying his practice squad time. I don't know what's going on, but I feel bad for him. Like you've said in the past, great receiver when he's on the field. Just doesn't see the field a lot anymore.
Yep.
And then Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver of Ohio State, game time decision, but was listed as doubtful. So could be huge news there.
Yeah, he's unlikely to go. Ohio State's got their running backs back, though. You got Travion. He's in. He's good to go. Chip Trainum, ready to go. So they'll have that at their disposal. I cannot wait to watch that game to kind of see how.
I'm ready to watch you get mad.
It's a line of scrimmage league, obviously, but can Penn State run the ball? They feel confident in the line of scrimmage on both sides. Ohio State's D-line wrecked the game last year against Penn State. So we'll see how that goes. I really like this matchup. I really wish Egbuka was out there, but that opens the door again for a Carnell Tate if you're looking for someone in a DFS sleeper to play.
Maybe Ennis to make an appearance.
Yeah, right.
And then I got one more that just came up. So we talked about him in the news on Wednesday. And the Troy Calhoun, the Air Force coach, said he was out for a while. Zach Lerear, the quarterback for Air Force, is expected to play today.
What?
Yeah. So the undefeated Air Force team that everyone was like, what's going to happen with their quarterback being out, who basically runs the ball, throws the ball a little bit, kind of does everything, is expected to play today. So coach being a little contradictory there, maybe trying to shrew one over on whoever they're playing today. I don't know.
That's wild as a mug. All right, let's look at the shootouts this week.
Shootouts of the week.
All right, so here we go. If you're pulling it up on the website, we've got our shootouts of the week section. We do this every week on our DFS post, which you can navigate to straight from the DFS link in the top. So we're looking at, teams that are going to, it's like a close-ish score. You know what? One slipped me here. One slipped.
It slipped you.
Yeah, oh yeah, Oklahoma UCF should not have made this list because of the gap in points there. Although it is a high-scoring game, I don't think there's going to be people subbed out, early in that one. But that's what we're trying to avoid. It's like a high over/under type game that we're looking for here. So that's fine. That's fine on the list. We've got San Jose State against Utah State, projected to be around a 36-31 finish there. So you're looking at Kyrie Robinson. Is that the right last name? I can't remember. And other players, obviously that Utah stack of receivers there, Royals, etc. You're looking at absolutely starting those players. UAB Memphis, UNLV Colorado State, a lot of smaller school shootouts. Really, the main one in the top level of college football. You've got the SEC matchup that's intriguing of Missouri hosting South Carolina, being a 7-point favorite. South Carolina was in a shootout last week. Missouri has been putting up points like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got Luther Burden. Of course, you're starting him every week. It doesn't matter what else is going on. But all those South Carolina players, etc., they're a go this week in your lineups. And this is where you look for some sleeper spots. So if you've got a small amount of money left and you have like just a receiver spot to fill or a flex spot to fill in a DFS lineup, if you pull one from these games, if they're available in DraftKings or FanDuel, then your likelihood that you get points from that small, or whatever, small like amount player, you're more likely to get some points. And then we've got some of our high probability position groups, still a lot. So you're looking for mismatches here, like LSU Army won't be available. But if they were, for example, Army's 110th against the rush. Maybe LSU tries to get the running game going, but in reality, LSU outmatches Army by a lot. It's projected to be 45 points for LSU, which is basically their average points per game, and they'll be able to do whatever they want. Do any games here stand out to you?
Not that I can see off the top of my head, man. The UCLA Stanford game's kind of interesting. You wonder if Dante Moore's going to look like, that 33 to 35 point quarterback. But they've surprised with how good their defense is playing this year. So I don't know. That one surprises me a little bit because I don't know if UCLA is going to put up 35, but we'll see.
Yeah, an example here is you're looking for outmatched opponents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this one happened last night, SMU Temple. They were on our top 10 list here, whatever. SMU won 55-0. So that's where an example where it's like,
yeah,
full
Temple's
go.
Quarterback didn't play either. So
yeah, that's where it's like full go. You're playing SMU players if you need to kind of fill in a spot, although they spread the ball around quite a bit. Jalen Knighton had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Going for 64 yards, but only on 4.3 yards per carry. So there are some opportunities in here, obviously, and we list those out. I think everybody, for the most part, knows how to use those. And unless anything stands out, we can get to our own DFS sleepers this week.
Let's do it.
All right.
DFS sleepers.
Quarterback. I don't know how you feel about this one, but
I'll tell you.
Tyler Van Dyke of Miami. First of all, I can tell you ChatGPT does not like Tyler Van Dyke's name. It took me a while to kind of troubleshoot that and figure out why. It's like, this is breaking our content policies.
Because the last name, even though it's spelled different.
I changed it to Tyler Van Duke, and it worked fine.
What a weird thing.
$6,400. Miami is at home hosting a really good, Clemson defense. And there'll be a crowd of like 18,000 people there to watch, maybe more than that given the matchup. But I like Van Dyke this week. It's a big moment for Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. One of these teams is going to come, or at the end of the day, they're going to have 3 losses, and the fans are going to be pretty mad. And it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. And I think Miami is going to have to put up a show. Van Dyke has not looked great the last 2 weeks, and he started out the season so well. So I think it's going to be a bounce back. I've got him as a sleeper. I've got J.J. McCarthy, Michigan, at 7,900. And then one that I want to roll with, I want to see where the talent is realized here. Dante Moore has been starting all year for UCLA. He's got a decent price tag of $8,000, but they're playing against Stanford, who's coming off an emotional game that they won, and they're already bad to begin with. I think Dante Moore is going to find his way potentially in this game. So that's why he's a sleeper for me if you're looking for like a super flex kind of player that's a little bit on the low end for a quarterback. I like Dante Moore against Stanford this week. Do you have any quarterbacks that you want to add to the mix here?
I put him on one of mine because it's kind of an interesting situation, and he's going up against a defense that, to me, isn't that great. I grabbed Locke, the quarterback that's taken over for Wisconsin, for a lineup because he's $6,600 playing against Illinois. And, I needed a cheap quarterback to throw in because I love having a quarterback in my super flex spot if I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw him in a super flex spot to see what happens. I think everybody else in that lineup is going to perform nicely. So if he gets me 15 or 16, it should be fine. But who knows? Maybe he could surprise me and get even more than that. I don't know. But I threw him in just because he's a starting quarterback at $6,600 today. So I'm winging it.
I dig it. All right, running back. My favorite one that I would put in every lineup, like game script. If it goes in the way of Utah, Jaquindon Jackson should have a big game against USC. So obviously Utah's going to do their best job with, Cam Rising probably out for the year. They're going to do their best job to keep the USC offense off the field and keep their defense fresh. And the best way to do it is to feed the rock to Jaquindon Jackson, who's getting healthy, had a good game last week. And he's a dark horse to really break out in this game if the game goes in the way of Utah. And we'll see. That's obviously Utah's best shot to win is keep it low scoring, keep the clock moving, and love Jaquindon Jackson there. I think Matt and I, maybe you did too, Doug. We both had Jordan James in the starting lineup in our DFS post battle. Yeah, gambling against each other there. He's at 5,400. Oregon, he's getting 11 plus ish touches a game, and Oregon's gonna be coming into this game angry. So I think
they're gonna have another game where they're potentially supposed to put up a lot of points.
Yeah, they're supposed to put up a ton of points. So he'll get touches, and he's at 5,400. So he's a sleeper running back that you can kind of fill in to pair with one of the more expensive ones. And then I wouldn't sleep on LJ Martin of BYU. I like him at 5,700, potential steal there. How about you, Doug? Who do you like this week? Any running backs?
Definitely liked him a lot. I did take your boy that you talked about last week. I took Fegan again in a couple of them.
Tougher matchup this week, right, against Wisconsin. I don't have him in any lineups.
Yeah, and with the injury news to the other ones that are still out, he's going to be the running back there again.
Yeah, he's still like you said, he's going to get his touches.
And then
tougher matchup.
I had another one in here. You can move on. I'll mention it when I get to it here when I find it. So,
all right, at receiver, man, Jacoby George is still priced low. Like he gets plenty of looks. He scored a bunch of touchdowns. They are going up against Clemson. It's going to be a tough matchup. But at 4,400 in a game where Miami has to win and Clemson has to win, you just love that about these kinds of games. You don't know what's going to come out of it. But I like him as a sleeper at 4,400. A super deep sleeper, because of how the Alabama-Tennessee game is going to – how the matchup is going to work out, where Alabama hasn't been able to run the ball really well or consistently all year. They're a deep shot team. Tennessee knows that. I think that's going to open up the middle of the field for Amari Niblack, the tight end for Bama. He's at 3,500. He gets on average only a couple catches or so a game, but he's a red zone threat. And I think in this game specifically, tight end, whatever, drag routes, in routes, dig routes across the middle, whatever. I think that part of the field, the weakness of Milroe is his accuracy on the short to intermediate routes, and that's more of what Niblack will do. And I like that matchup this week. And then I've got one more. As this guy gets healthy, I think he's one of the best players in college football, Zachariah Branch. He's not going to be 4,800 for long. So he's going up against a heck of a defense in Utah, and Utah's D-line could certainly wreck the game just like Notre Dame did last week. So that is a concern for me, but dang, Branch at 4,800, it's hard for me to pass up.
It's tough, yeah.
Yeah, what do you think?
That's tough to pass up for sure, but I do, again, worry about them playing Utah's offense or defense. But, if he lines up in the slot, I don't think Utah has a linebacker fast enough to cover that kid.
Yeah.
Your hope is to just kind of knock him on the ground at some point and knock him off his route. But yeah, man, I think you're seeing in DFS now, especially with receivers and quarterbacks, these kids are getting up to the price we expect them to be at.
Right.
So I really do like maybe the number 2 guy, whoever that is, with Golden being back for Houston against Texas, because they're going to have to try to score points. And so I look at games like that too, where I'm like, okay, who's going to be down probably pretty early and have to try to make up some ground. So I look at receivers for teams like that. But I think you covered the main ones. But yeah, I think Zachariah Branch could have a good game, especially if there's matchup issues with him and linebackers.
So let's get to our favorite stack this week.
Stack of the week.
So Xavier Worthy has had a really, fine year. I think he's averaging around 14 fantasy points a game. He's been fine. Not first round pick worthy. Not really second round pick worthy, going back to kind of draft capital that you spent on these guys. But as a superstar in the sport, those guys tend to get drafted a little earlier depending on who's in your draft and all that stuff. I like him a lot this week. They're coming off a bye week. I think they're going to take some shots and try and knock out Houston early. So I've got Quinn Ewers to Xavier Worthy as my favorite stack this week, 8,600 to 5,800. Ewers is on the, mid-level price tag for a quarterback, not super high-end like a Bo Nix at 9,800 or whatever. And then Worthy is a little bit sleeper-ish just because, he hasn't really busted out. But we all know and have seen what he's capable of when he can take over a game. So that's my favorite stack. Do you have one this week, Doug?
So that is definitely my favorite stack. I have that one in, I think, 3 of my lineups today. So hope to the dear, sweet Lord above that they do something. But I also threw one in there expecting a bounce-back game from BYU this week, playing Texas Tech, who does not have a good defense. And I went with Slavis, who was 7,100, and Chase Roberts, who's only 4,700. So I went with that combination today on a lineup to see what happens.
I like it. I almost went with Roberts as well in a lineup, but let's go over, as we close up, some of our favorite lineups this week, and I will pull up some of mine too, and I'm sure I'll put in a couple extra after having this conversation. So let's get to it.
DFS host battle.
All right. Let me go with my my night lineup real quick. This is probably my favorite lineup, I think. I'm a little worried about. I feel weird about Duke Florida State. I feel weird about Duke Florida State. My night ones have done the best. So I've got JJ McCarthy in at quarterback at 7,900 at Michigan State. Expected to be a beatdown. At running back, my favorite start this week, if we had a start of the week, which is we probably should. Jaquindon Jackson, 5,300. LJ Martin, we had as sleepers. So I'm saving money here, obviously, so I can get my flex and super flex in. Then I've got Zachariah Branch at 4,800, Jacoby George. And then I've got Savion Williams, who was targeted more with the backup with Josh in at quarterback. So I like him at 5,700. I don't like him a lot because I'd rather see more data points of him being good, but I think there's a shot there at Kansas State there today. And then in flex, I've got Trey Benson at 7,000 and super flex Jordan Travis at 9,200. So I like this lineup. I think it's got some good potential, but we're going to need those sleepers at receiver, obviously, to hit.
For sure. So I did a night lineup this week as well, and I've got 1-year-old faithfuls at quarterback. I got Jackson Dart at quarterback against Auburn.
That's a scary game. I'll say that.
Hey, listen, I'm rolling with it. I got confidence in the kid. So then
He's looking great. Honestly, he's looking great. He's throwing the ball with confidence. He's as far as the advanced analytics goes, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country right now. And with Trey Harris coming back, but just weird things happen at Jordan Hare at night. So we'll see.
And then I've got his counterpart, Judkins, at running back. So I'm expecting a offensive outburst from them today.
Yeah.
I got Shipley because I couldn't believe how cheap he was with how many touches he gets. Then I've got Miles Price at Texas Tech. Like I said, I think BYU is going to have a bounce back game, and I think Texas Tech's going to have to throw the ball around. Then kind of went your thought with TCU, that freshman quarterback looked really good, but I went J.P. Richardson there instead. Then Chase Roberts and Slavis, obviously. And then my cheap pickup is one of the third, fourth, fifth, whatever string tight ends at Utah. I went with Muner McLean, tight end for Utah, only 3,800. So we'll see what happens there. But
cool. All right, here's another one. My afternoon lineup, little bit different one here, the 3:30 game. So I've got Bo Nix at 9,800. I didn't love a lot of the lower tier quarterbacks during that time. So I just went ahead and went Bo Nix right in quarterback, which is not normal for me. And then I paired him with one of the more expensive running backs. Like I've got Jonathan Brooks in there at 7,400 at Houston. So then I'm having to go low dollar. So I've got Jordan James at 5,400, Shamir DK for Wisconsin against Illinois at 4,800 as a sleeper this week. I put him in one of my lineups, but I wasn't confident enough to put him as a sleeper on the website. So take that for what you want to. And then I've got Nye Black in there at 3,500 so that I could fit in Xavier Worthy at 6,500. Jatavian Sanders at 4,900. And then I've got Braylon Allen in Superflex at 7,700.
Very nice. So the afternoon one was a little difficult for me, so I'm not really going to go over a lineup for that one because I just threw one together. We'll see what happens. But
good enough. Good enough.
Yeah. So one of the quarterbacks I really did like today that I have in a lineup though is, and get your opinion on this one, but I definitely had to throw Dylan Gabriel in a lineup today because I really like the point spread in that game and the over under. So
yeah,
I threw Dylan Gabriel in a lineup with that freshman that seems like all he does is catch touchdown passes when he does catch it with Nick Anderson. So
right. All right. So you've got some start-sit questions. We'll end it there, and let's get to it.
Start 'em or sit 'em.
All right. So we got _J24 asking, what are we doing with Marvin Harrison Jr.? He's not even a top 5 wide receiver in the country right now. I'd rather have Malik Neighbors all day long. What about Ohio State's running backs? Are they droppable or holdable? I added the "able" at the end of that question. So, BMAC, first, what are we doing with Marvin Harrison?
Holding for sure. Like he's an every week start, no matter what. Like, it's one of the things where it comes to like you're thinking real quick, like you mentioned Jackson Dart and passing efficiency and all that stuff. All those metrics matter, and you see like Drew Aller, and it's like check down city. Average yards per completion is really low. So we haven't got to see him yet do much of anything, which is kind of opposite. You kind of expected them to take shots. I think they've got like one 40-plus yard I don't know this for sure. Like touchdown on the season, it was early in the year,
especially with all the talk
Lambert
about
Smith.
his arm strength in the offseason.
And with McCord, we just haven't seen him look like we expect to see him look, and I think that just takes maturity. I listened to a really good podcast yesterday on why the quarterback play in college football is down. It's by college football nerds. Definitely, if you're into that kind of stuff, check it out. But the long and short version of it is that basically high schools are still heavy running RPO, which college defenses have caught up on. It's not working as much as it used to. So college quarterbacks, or high school quarterbacks rather, are running RPO style offenses. Then they're coming in and they're having to learn how to do all the check downs and all that stuff. And it takes time and it takes experience. And a quarterback, like they used Milroe as an example, he might be 1 year away from being able to more or actually effectively run the offense that he's in right now. And that's why, like Ty Simpson, all these other guys, they're just not ready for all the things that these current college offenses are throwing at them or requiring of them. That's why you see these, less freshmen kind of break out like we expected some to, with like Dante Moore at UCLA. I thought he would be better than he is now, but this is the new norm. This is the things these are the things we need to learn and adjust with in fantasy football. So maybe McCord and Aller can be different in week 10 than they definitely were in week 2. And this is going to be one of those games where it's a growing up point. I do think you can make some decisions like the ones that were posed to us based on how they perform in a big game like this, if they fold or if they do well. Like if your trade deadline's up, so I mean with Marvin Harrison Jr., you're just going to hold him and start him every week. I agree that if you could get Neighbors for Harrison in that offense the way they are, I would rather have Neighbors, although, you're going into a bye week next week and then they play against Alabama and then they play, harder schedule in the back half. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I like Marvin Harrison a ton.
Yeah.
And I'm as disappointed as anyone in the Ohio State running backs. Like, Travion, his whole career, I've been super high on him. He's just been in and out of lineups with injuries. And although he looks explosive this year and good, and he's going to be a go this week, and the Ohio State offensive line, for the most part, hasn't been elite run blocking. You saw them last year just not be tough on the line of scrimmage, and you see what Michigan's done to them on the line of scrimmage the last couple of years. So I'm still holding Henderson. I'm probably getting rid of anyone else. I'd cut anyone else, but I'd keep Travion since he's like the clear lead back when he's healthy. So you got to assume he's going to play today, hopefully stay healthy. And then he's a potential every week starter, although against Michigan, I probably wouldn't start him. So any other thoughts to add there? Did we miss anything on that one, Doug?
No. Nope.
Let's go.
All right. We got Mofos. Anything new on Darius Taylor? After Flex comments on programs being AAA teams feeding the major programs right when Taylor went out with no new news. Mofos is under the impression that Taylor has shelved himself to potentially be a feeder for one of these bigger programs. What do you think?
That's interesting.
He is listed as questionable today.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. But it looks like he's recently signed with some NIL stuff, so I think there might be legs to that, man. Like, we'll see. That's something where you want to use those Fantrax capabilities of, if a player doesn't play, auto sub this guy if your league allows it.
Mm-hmm.
For our league, we do a Slack channel where everyone has to submit their subs in case there's like a unknown absence or an unlisted injury that causes someone to just not take any snaps at all. Hopefully your league has something like that where you can kind of put him in your lineup, and then if he doesn't play, use that Fantrax auto sub or whatever. But
we got two more.
It's a wait and see.
I know you've got a golf event to get to soon, so we'll make these the last two pretty quick here.
That's a wait and see for me on Taylor. I guess I want to see him go, and then
yeah, me too.
That would suck because he's such a good player.
So forgive me for not knowing how to say your Discord name. So I'm calling you Nikki. Nikki Song or
I love you, and you try this every week.
Maybe you can in the Discord help break it apart for me so I can say this right eventually. But which of the three would you sit between King, Hoover, and Avery Johnson? I'll tell you right now, I would sit King.
Against Boston College?
Man, I'm loving the excitement of these two young kids, and I might be falling into the trap, but I had King on a fantasy team for a while. He let me down every time I tried to play him, so
well, that's a different team.
I
know. I would. It would be really hard to sit.
It'd be between right. So I was gonna say,
but they're listed as co-starters this week.
Yeah, but we already talked about that, and they're gonna be co-starters until they kick off the ball. I really think that it would be between King and Hoover to sit for me today because, yes, Hoover looked great last week, but he is playing a better defense this week.
TCU, surprisingly, against Kansas State's only projected to score 24 on the road. So a little shaky on that one.
I just love Avery Johnson's running ability.
I do too. I definitely think it's debatable. But
and King has that too, though. And they're playing Boston College, whose defense is not very good.
I'm starting King in this scenario, and then I'm picking Hoover or Avery Johnson. Which one do I sit?
I'd go Avery Johnson. I would if I could pick of Hoover and Avery. I'm more confident with Avery Johnson.
It's the battle where, like, do you believe the coach, or do you think it's just like he's doing his senior a favor to list him as the co-starter?
He's like, Will Howard, it's been a nice ride. We're going to list you as a co-starter for the rest of the season, but that probably means you might come in for a pass or two.
Well, that's the decision. We'll lay it out for you to play it out there. Hoover is at least the starter for sure, and they're projected to score 24, or you go with Avery Johnson listed as a co-starter on a team at home projected to score 31. It really depends on the rest of my lineup there, where if you're risk averse and you believe the coach, you might start Hoover and King, and that is probably what I do just to be conservative. It's obviously really difficult to sit Avery Johnson. So I think you would be on the King Avery, and I'd be on King Hoover. And then whichever one of us is wrong, we'll send Nick $1 in Venmo.
Yep, and we've also got that Arkansas discussion going on too. Which running back's going to get the most today?
Yep.
But all right, so we got one more, which is a two-parter or a two-questioner, I guess. El Cuando, another one. El Cuando. So you got need two flex from Keon Coleman, Terrell Vaughn, Larry McAmmon. Goodness, I can't speak today. And Blake Watson. I think with Blake Watson, it really depends on that injury. One of my flexes for sure, even though they're playing Duke, is going to be Keon Coleman.
And Terrell Vaughn, like Utah State's one of the best starts. It's going to be a shootout.
To score like 35 or something today.
Yeah, I'm starting those two, Coleman and Vaughn, and it's a wait and see. Watson's one of the best running backs in college fantasy, but you can't start him if it's possible where he's going to go, one catch for 1 yard and one carry and then sit the rest of the game.
And then I've already got my two picks for the next question. We'll see if we agree. So he needs two flex from Derwin Burgess, A.D. Mitchell, Jacoby George, and Trayvon Henderson. I will tell you my first one is A.D. Mitchell for sure.
I would go Burgess for sure.
See, I was going with the top two again, Burgess and A.D. Mitchell, because I think Texas is going to score some points against Houston today.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'd go the same. Burgess and Mitchell.
And with Trayvon Henderson and how hush Ryan Day is, man, I don't know if he's like game time decision going to get 10 carries today. If he's going to, I don't know. So that's tough for me.
Well, that's all the questions we have. No live questions today. So I hope you guys have a great Saturday, and we will talk to you guys really soon. Have a great one.
See y'all.
Thank you for listening to the CFB Dynasty podcast. Help us out by subscribing on YouTube and reviewing us on your podcast network.